So I've texted my friends to see if anyone's available to come on a trail ride with me because Cricket and I are getting ready to go to the Standardbred National Show, and I'm trying to strengthen up his hind end a little bit before we plan to go and compete. I don't have a single hill on the property, so I've been trying to take him out to one of the local trails. I texted a few of my friends to see if anyone wants to join me, and no one is free today, but I figured Cricket's been there before. He is the perfect gentleman, whether he's alone or with a friend. So today I'm going to try and do my very first solo trail ride. So I'm not really nervous because I've done a lot of solo rides off the farm with Cricket, and I've done a lot of solo trails on the farm with Cricket. So doing a solo trail ride off the farm with Cricket isn't that big of a stretch for me. But I do want to take in some extra safety considerations. If you are thinking about going on a solo trail, here's some things you should be thinking about. One, make sure that there is someone out there who knows where you are going, and when they should expect you back. And that way, if they don't see you come back at the right time, they can send someone out to look for you or go look for you themselves. Number two, I'm making sure my phone is fully charged and I'm bringing it with me. Three, I've got my helmet all ready to go. Four, make sure that your horse loads nicely by yourself and you can unload and tack nicely by yourself as well. And five, make sure that you're gonna have fun. Don't push yourself to go out on a solo trail ride if you're afraid to do it and you don't think you're gonna have a good time. So Cricket loaded up and we made it over to the farm park, which is about 15 minutes from my house without any sort of issue. I did notice before I went to get Cricket off the trailer that whoever had been parked here before me had left a whole bunch of manure and shavings out behind the trailer. And so that is a pet peeve of mine. Everyone should clean up after themselves. This is a beautiful park. We are privileged to be able to ride here. So I did muck this area for that person just in case maybe they missed it. So then I'm tacking up Cricket. This was probably the most stressful part about riding by myself for me, just because every time I had to step into my trailer to get all of my stuff out, I felt somewhat exposed leaving him here alone. And if you see his whale eye, it's because every single time I went to put his bridle on, there's a bunch of other horses here. It's a really popular park. And somehow there was always a horse galloping by. But anyways, I tacked him up without issue. It did make me nervous, though, I must admit. And then I went to get on. It was pretty windy and pretty busy here. And we ran into a cute little dog. The people told me that their dog loved horses and they were really nice. And then we just went out on our trail. I rode at the farm park for close to 40 minutes, and most of it was spent walking, especially through a soybean field. This is me just now remembering my advice that I gave about make sure someone knows where you are. So I texted my husband to tell him exactly where I was and what time to expect me home. And I started hacking out. After a good long walk, I decided to do a little bit of trot to see how Cricket felt. He was feeling a little bit nervous and he was definitely power trotting up this hill, but going up the hill kind of let him wear out some of his nerves. And after this, he really settled in. So if I haven't stressed this enough, the farm park that we went to, it's the Christy Hoffman Farm Park in central New Jersey. Absolutely beautiful, wonderfully maintained. What a privilege it is to have something like this available to the public for free. So this is the giant soybean field that I mostly walked around. I decided to do a little bit of left lead canter here with Cricket. Cricket, canter?
I thought that there was a little shortcut across the soybean field. So I turned in here, but it turns out it's just like a little path that they mow for these trees. So Cricket and I did an unintentional little detour here, which was fine. We just got to practice our turning and, our left lead transition another time. So Cricket, part of the reason why I wanted to take him out on the trails is just so that he could open up his stride a little bit and strengthen his hind end on some more uneven terrain.
Cricket, canter?
I admit I absolutely love cantering in an open field. I learned how to ride, I always say, in a cornfield when I was growing up in Maryland, and going through the fields just gives me like such nostalgia. It makes me miss my riding bestie from growing up. So I'll have to get her to come for a ride with me. So, anyways, I just spent probably about 20 minutes walking through the soybeans after this. And really, other than maybe the first 5 minutes of our ride where Cricket was feeling a little bit like on edge, he was really chill. And we were just kind of like bebopping along through this massive soybean field. And he was great through all of the trail. I thought he might want to drink the water there, but he did not. He just wanted to drop down and sniff it. And then coming around this part, I had wanted to do my right lead canter up that hill, but I noticed there was a person on it, and I didn't want to canter next to a person. I thought that might scare them. So I decided to school this water with Cricket first. And if you know Cricket, you know he loves splashing through water. And it took a lot of restraint for him to not stop and splash there. And then by the time we finished schooling the water, the person had disappeared from the hill. So we got to do our little canter here. It's like such a fun hill to go up the hill. And at the time, it felt like we were going really fast. And of course, watching the video back, it was just like a nice canter. But like halfway up the hill, I had him open up his stride a little bit. And it went from just a nice quiet canter to a nice quiet, slightly extended canter. But I had fun and I thought it was adventurous. Look at the wind in his hair. Ah, oh, Cricket, you're so cute. So this was pretty much the end of my ride at this point. I just walked him out a little bit to cool him down. I left this clip in because I just think it's such a picturesque scene and such a privilege to be able to ride here. And I thought maybe you guys would all like to live vicariously through me. So to wrap out the ride, I did a little bit of canter up the hill towards the trailer. And once again, I saw people, so I decided to stop so that I didn't scare them. And then we walked it out a little bit because obviously I don't want to canter straight over to my trailer without giving him a little bit of an appropriate cool down. So we walked a little bit to help Cricket cool off a little bit and catch his breath before I took him back over to the trailer and started unpacking him. So I'll admit I felt a little bit apprehensive when we first got to the farm park and those other horses were galloping by. But Cricket, of course, was a total champ and I had a great time. We actually ran into a bunch of horse and riders in the park. So it's felt like a really safe place to go for a solo trail ride. And then again, I came out and he was looking off into the distance in the breeze, and I was like, oh, what a great time to get a picture. And then again, another group of horses came galloping down the hill. And every single time I tried to take a picture, he had whale eye, looked terrified, like he wasn't having a good time. But you can see he had a good time up until then. And so then to load him back on, because we were not at home, I did use my lunge line trick, which if you haven't seen this, you just use a lunge line when you're loading your horse up. That way you still have a rope that's attached to your hand in their face, even when you're doing up the butt bar without clipping them in. I'll link that video below. And then I just went around, picked up all of my stuff, made sure that I am not that jerk leaving poop behind at the park. And then Cricket does not like being in a stationary trailer after his work is done. So he said, let's get this show on the road, lady. And I obliged.
Okay, I'm going. So we just unloaded off of the trailer and now we're heading back into the barn. Thomas is so excited to have us back home, and Pony's running around like a nut now too. But it was a big success. I had a lot of fun. I love cantering through the fields with Cricket. That's my favorite part. I also liked the water crossing because I know Cricket likes the water crossing. I would definitely do that again. It was just like taking him with a friend, only I didn't have anyone to talk to the entire time. So I did miss the company of having a companion. I still prefer riding with a friend, but I'd absolutely ride by myself again. So I hope you liked today's video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more adventurous content.